Simon, thank you for joining us to set up this new Vitality Blast season. Before we go forward, let's go back. Your reflections on 2022 and what the Eagles managed to achieve.
Yeah, I think first impressions are, the first memories of last season was disappointing to lose the quarter-final at Old Trafford against Lancs. I think we had come a long way as a team and we just sort of fell short in that last game. But I think incredibly proud of the brand of cricket that we ended up playing in that tournament. We want to try and play a fearless brand of cricket. We understand that there's going to be days where we come short and get bowled out for 80, but I think more often than not we were scoring north of 200, which is exactly the type of cricket that we want to be playing, and with our batting lineup and I think the way that certain players played last season, it allowed us to do that. So very happy with how we progressed, but I think a little bit disappointing not to make finals day, but hopefully we can build on that going into this season.
Well, lifting the bar is always a key thing, and I think you mentioned that batting lineup. I mean, you look at Michael Pepper, Paul Walter, the leading run scorers for the Eagles in this competition last season. The confidence that they have must be able to instill a lot more confidence in the way that you can captain the side, right?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of opportunity for them last season. They had shown a lot of potential, but it was, I think, them repaying their talents, if I can put it like that.
Yeah.
I think they really did. We missed Critch when he got injured. He was massive for us last season, and speaking about that fearless brand of cricket, the way that Peps came in against some of the best T20 players in the world. From memory, I think he had the highest strike rate against spin in the Vitality Blast. Somebody might have overtaken him in the knockout stages, but in the group stages, Riley Rousseau had an unbelievable tournament for Somerset. But I think Peps was up there with the best strikers in the tournament. So extremely happy for him. And I think it showed in sort of his winter and the 100 as well, getting those opportunities. And Paulie as well. I think he's always sort of been on the fringes and threatened to make an impact, but he really came through last season. So incredibly happy with the younger guys and guys that haven't had that much opportunity to sort of come in and play the way that they did.
You talk about rolling the dice, and do you feel now in your captaincy you have more willingness to roll the dice, to take the risks? Because risk and reward, we know, it can be a very fine line, but in your head, do you captain any different now to when you first took on this role?
I think I can give a lot more responsibility to the players now. I think they've shown that they can take that on board and look after themselves in a way. So it does take a bit of weight off my shoulders to be able to not have to speak game plans or have long team chats about how we're going to go about our business. I think guys are pretty settled. They know how they're going to go about their business, and I think as a captain that helps a lot. So yeah, I think T20 is such a fluid game. It's constantly changing on the field. You need to try and make the best possible decisions on the field at that given time. And I think when guys are playing in a certain way, not so much with the batting, because I think that sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah, sure.
Especially with the bowling, having the options, knowing guys that are ready to go. Paulie bowling again and doing nicely, and having guys like Critch and Aaron Nidja up your sleeve. Sam Cook's done extremely well in the white ball format over the last few years. So I think as a captain it gives you a lot of freedom to make certain decisions and gamble a little bit at certain stages of games, because you know that you can really rely on these guys and they can pull through and do the job for you.
And the options that you speak of, I mean, we can see them in the batting, even more so the balance in the bowling attack now. You mentioned, Paulie, you got Daniel Sams, of course, 2 left armers, Aaron Nidja, a left arm spinner, yourself. There seems to be a lot more variety that you can call on, and therefore to be able to manipulate your game plan on whatever's in front of you is critical for a top class captain as you are.
Yeah, I think having the options like that to cover all the bases. I think T20s is now, it's so much about the statistics, about matchups, about how...
Do you find that? That's interesting. You work matchups. I mean, I'm big into baseball, and that's all about matchups, but I haven't heard it specifically on T20s. But do you do that?
Yeah, I think the game's evolved, and it's become all about sort of the stats, how certain players play against certain types of bowling. So when you're in a situation and a batter's maybe just come to the wicket, you know what he struggles against, or if he's got off to a start, you know what you can turn to. And having all the different options, the left arm seamers, Daniel Sams and Paul Walter, like you mentioned, having Nedge, having Critch to bowl leg spin. Tom Wesley did a job for us last season, a beautiful job for us here, when there were two left-handers batting. And then you can still draw on the experience of guys like Sam Cook, Shane Snater, Jamie Porter, whoever it may be that's in the 11 that day. So yeah, I think T20 cricket is moving more the money ball route. And the matchups and the stats and strike rates and boundary percentages, all of that is becoming, or is coming to the forefront and becoming a massive part of the T20 game.
And the way the world circus now works, there's not many surprises. There will be youngsters coming through, of course there will, but most of the hired hands you will know. I mean, you played in the inaugural South African T20 in the off-season, and I don't suppose there were that many people you hadn't seen before. We may be seeing new faces, but for those actually on the world circus, I guess there's no real surprises coming your way.
Yeah, I think if I haven't personally seen somebody play, somebody in the team has played with him or played against him in the 100 or in the Big Bash, or so you can draw on a lot of knowledge from the different players in your squad. And then also with Mick Lewis being involved with the Melbourne Renegades, and
of course
Mags going over there this winter as well. I think also that experience that they gain from that, and the knowledge from the players, different ideas, how teams like that go about their business. It's all stuff that we're trying to sort of evolve with and adopt, try and cherry pick what works, and try and sort of move forward with the times.
For you as a captain, going out onto the field of play, you must have clear headspace, because there is so much info that you're storing that you have to call on it at a split second with whatever the last two balls have been, or whatever it may be. Do you find yourself preparing for a game in a different way maybe than before because of what you've learned?
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelming amount of information, and I think that's where you as a player need to sift through what the important stuff is, what do I need on the field at given times, and that's the feedback that's given to coaches. And different players prepare differently. Some guys want to see how bowlers sort of construct their overs. Bowlers want to see how batters, what are their options, where they're looking to score. So for me as a captain, I'm not going to cover every single base, otherwise you're going to be doing 36 hours of prep for each game. I think that's where the responsibility is on the players to understand how certain batters are going to play. Because I'm not the type of captain who's going to be standing at mid-off telling a bowler, this is the ball, you need to bowl this ball. I think you need to give bowlers freedom to express themselves, allow them to be successful, but also allow them to fail, and sort of learn from their mistakes. Instead of sort of holding their hand their whole way, I don't really think that players grow as much if they're constantly being told what to do. I think you need to give them the freedom to be able to explore different options, even if it's against what you think, and then you can sit down afterwards and sort of speak to them about what they thought and their options. And I think they're only going to grow as players that way. So yeah, there's a lot of information. I as a captain need certain stuff, but I think you also need to sift through a lot of stuff that you don't need.
The way that these matches go back to back to back, momentum is obviously valuable, not imperative, as we found out in 2019. Last season, I think we won in Canterbury, and then we had last win, and it wasn't until that Middlesex Sussex double header, I think, here, wasn't it, that you got back-to-back victories. How important is home advantage, and how important is it to make the most of home advantage when you've got games coming thick and fast?
Yeah, I think if you look at last season, we won, I think it was 6 from 7 at home, which previously we had been quite bad at home. And relying on wins away from home. So if you're winning your home games, it's taking pressure off you when you're travelling away.
That's the bedrock then.
And teams are going to prepare wickets that suit their attack. We saw the quarter-final at Lancs last year. They had a lot of slow bowlers, used wickets, which you can't control going into knockout games, but you can certainly control that when you're playing at home. I think Stewie Kerrison has been massive for us. He's prepared really good wickets, which is exactly what we want here at Chelmsford. And with our options, if the wickets do deteriorate or play differently, we can cover those. But yeah, I think traditionally we're quite slow starters. And with this Ireland game and us starting later than everybody, it's going to be huge for us to get a bit of momentum in that first sort of 6-game block, and try and get our noses in front instead of always playing catch up. I think we're the type of team that when our backs are against the wall, we play our best cricket. But hopefully, with the experience that certain players have had through the last sort of 9 months, that we can start to become a team that is winning from the start of the tournament instead of waiting for a moment mid-season to sort of kickstart us into the back end of the tournament.
Lastly, and it will be last, I promise, on a personal level, you've been playing non-stop cricket for quite a while now. You still got the appetite for this game?
Yeah, I think I've loved my time in England, and I think now moving out of the 4-day stuff, it's a different challenge. T20 captaincy brings a different responsibility as well, so it brings like a boost of energy and sort of like an adrenaline shot for this next sort of section in the season. So I'm extremely excited. It's a format that I love playing. It's incredibly challenging, a completely different challenge to 4-day cricket. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and yeah, I've definitely got the energy regardless of how much cricket I've played.
Well, we can't wait to see you lead the Eagles to bigger and better things. Thanks for your time, Simon.